Jazz Club.
Hello and welcome to Big Wristwatches. As you've probably already noticed in earlier videos, I try to be a little different than other watch channels by mixing my passion for watches with the history that fuels it. This video, in which I'll talk about the Breitling Chronomat, will be no different. I've had a few Chronomats in the past and I've recently acquired the newest iteration, which I will discuss later on. For me, a watch needs to click aesthetically, but an equally important factor is its history. The Chronomat has been an important pillar of Breitling's catalog since 1941, the year when it was first introduced. This first reference, the 769, featured a patented slide rule and was powered by the Venus 175 movement. Many people know about the Breitling Navitimer, about which I will probably make another video in the future, but not many people know that the Navitimer was actually derived from the Chronomat, which makes it an absolute legend in horological history. This pre-1980s Chronomat was a totally different beast than the modern-day Chronomat, which was first introduced in 1984 with the model reference 81950. The watch was reimagined following the quartz crisis in the 70s and 80s, when the general public started thinking mechanical movements were going to be made obsolete by their new and seemingly superior electronic counterparts. They couldn't have been more wrong though, and the new Chronomat tended to the re-emerging demand for mechanical movements. It used the now legendary automatic EDA Valjoux 7750, which Breitling continues to use to this day in a more evolved form. The new design also introduced the famous rider tabs on the bezel, an important design cue of the Chronomat, together with a well-known rouleau or bullet bracelet. This new bracelet was truly an original and game-changing design and has grown into an iconic telltale for a vintage Chronomat. Now, the new Chronomat styling was a collaborative effort between Breitling and the Italian jet aerobatics team called the Frecce Tricolori. They are the official aerobatics division of the Italian Air Force and contributed to the design of the new chronograph, which was based on their specifications. It therefore featured a rugged 40mm case and ergonomic pushers, which was required for the hard workloads these watches had to endure. The division got the honor of receiving their special edition Frecce Tricolore watches in 1983, a year before the public release of the Chronomat. This first watch featured their logo on the dial and wasn't yet called Chronomat at that time. The Chronomat has proven to be one of Breitling's best-selling models until this very day. I've had the pleasure of owning a Chronomat Vitesse a while ago, which turned out to be a pretty rare watch since only 60 were made in this specific configuration according to internet sources. For me, however, having a big wrist, this version of the Chronomat was a little too small with its 40mm diameter. That said, it was really an attention grabber with a blue dial and a two-tone case and bracelet. It was released in 2011, which made it one of their last Chronomats with the 7750 movement, and the overall fit and finish was exemplary. In 2009, Breitling started producing their new and updated Chronomats, which no longer contained the 7750 movement, but the new in-house B01 movement instead. It was the very first watch in the Breitling catalog to feature this new movement, which is telling on its own. The B01 is COSC certified, has a power reserve of 70 hours and has grown to be the cornerstone of Breitling's product lineup. Around this time, the design was updated to a more bold and modern look too. The sizes also went up, with watches now boasting diameters of up to 44mm. Now, I considered buying one of these newer generation many times, but I never quite bit the bullet. Size-wise, they were perfect for me, but I felt that they broke too much with the original iconic design of earlier Chronomats. I specifically wasn't a big fan of the new bold font they started using for the numerals on the bezel. Then along came the year 2020, which will always be remembered as the year of the great COVID outbreak. As a consequence, Baselworld was cancelled, so the whole world was in suspense if and how watch brands would introduce their new models. Breitling's introduction of the new Chronomat turned out to be like a ray of sunshine on a rainy day. To commemorate the initial introduction of the 80s Chronomat, a limited edition Frecce Tricolore version was introduced first. Almost everybody immediately agreed that the new Chronomat design was spot on and it became an instant internet hit. Personally, I couldn't agree more. I think it strikes a perfect balance between modernizing the design and recalling the vintage 80s Chronomat design. Immediately apparent is the overall quality of the watch and the rebirth of the classic rouleau bracelet, which truly are a testament of Breitling's intention to up their game following the appointment of George Kern as their new CEO in 2017. I haven't been a big fan of the latest Navitimer updates, which is a matter of taste, but this new Chronomat is the only proof I needed to be convinced of Breitling's undoubtedly bright future. The old case design and proportions are back, but the font on the rider tabs has changed to a more sleek and subdued style compared to previous generation Chronomats. Furthermore, the diameter has shrunk, or grown depending on how you see it, to a more versatile 42 mm. It can now be worn on both larger and smaller wrists, and it wears infinitely better than the vintage 40 mm version on mine. In my opinion, this new Chronomat has instantly become the pinnacle of Breitling's current lineup, and other watch brands should take note, as this is the new watch to beat. I've never been a big fan of the quality of the old rouleau bracelet, but I did like the quirky design. Breitling somehow managed to reimagine this bracelet with a modernized and amazingly well-made version. It still has that vintage vibe, but the finish and build quality is absolutely amazing. I would go so far to say that this is my new favorite modern bracelet. It is just that great. The links are kept together with push pins, which allow to dismantle the bracelet by removing one single bullet, which acts as a cap, over the underlying linkage system. The clasp is a butterfly style affair and wears very comfortably. The bracelet really is an ingenious design on its own. And then there's the watch itself, which also is amazingly well executed. The dial markings are crisp and the sunburst finish is fantastic in this version, which features my favorite color blue. There are, of course, many other color options available. The sapphire glass has a blue AR coating, which makes the watch look stunning in all light. The case is very sharply finished and there's a protruding bump which houses the crown and the pushers. It continues the modernized vintage theme, which makes the new Chronomat so great. There's also a display case back that shows the B01 movement, and the watch boasts a 200-meter water resistance to boot. All these features make it one very tile watch, and in my opinion it's the perfect candidate for a one-watch collection. Now, all this greatness does have a small downside. The Chronomat isn't a cheap watch, and it costs about 8,000 euros, which is a pretty steep price to pay for any watch. That said, the price is completely justified for me because of the in-house movement and the overall quality of the watch. I even think it's still pretty fairly priced compared to many rivals in the Swiss watch industry. Anyway, you've probably heard already that I'm a bit of a fan of the new Chronomat, and it's true, I am really gushing about it in this review. I've always been a huge Breitling fan, and I must admit I was a little bit worried when I saw some of the new designs following the appointment of George Kern. I really wasn't liking the direction that Breitling was going with these. But that all changed when I saw the new Chronomat. It really is a breath of fresh air to me, and it makes me hopeful of what is to come. I am, and I will always be, a huge Breitling fan, and designs like these cement my emotions towards the brand. So that marks the end of another video. I hope that you have enjoyed this one, and if you did, please like and subscribe to my channel. Many more watch reviews and horological history is to follow. Thanks for watching again, and I'll see you next time. Bye!